Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is SIC Talks number 76. I'm here with Aaron Stern. Aaron is the curator and photographer and polymath malcontent, as he jokingly said earlier, off mic. Aaron and I know each other through sort of artistic circles. We met last year at an event that Bobby Hundreds did for the launch of his book, and Aaron was friendly with Jeff Carvalho, my partner in Culture Club, and so we were introduced in that way. And then it so happens that Aaron and I have a lot of people in common, and I've in that time sort of become fascinated by his work, his oeuvre. Not to mention the fact that he's just a lovely guy. So anyway, Aaron, now that we've set the expectation, you're going to be lovely. Be nice now. Aaron is also the driving force behind a show that's up at Water Street Associates in the Financial District in New York at the moment called Hard Copy, which I went to the opening of last Friday briefly. It is a show of photography from some names, and Aaron should tell us a little about it in a minute, but where all of the work is represented as very large format photocopies. So these are, let's call them fine photographs in certain respects, but they're being represented in this very, natural sort of DIY form that's reminiscent of zines and posters, street art almost. That I just thought the juxtaposition was really cool. And then some of the names of people that I've admired for a long time, John Davola, Shanika Jarvis being two of the names that are at the top of my head. So anyway, I haven't let you say anything. So hi, Aaron. Say hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this is the ostensible purpose of the show is to act as a complement to the SIC weekly newsletter, this compendium of links that I put together every week as a way of sort of cleaning off the plaque.
One of the only Substacks I read, actually.
Well, thank you. That's really, I take that as a high compliment. Also because you do a Substack newsletter called Another Newsletter, which is, periodical, but follows a similar sort of logic to mine in that it is a series of associations that you chart from one thing to the next. You do, being a highly visual person, you do a better job of associating an image to then a story and the thing that it makes you think of and so on. But how did you get started doing the newsletter? What was that? Where did that come from?
Well, I started as a photographer by having a photo diary. And this is like in 2006. And it was just a sort of throw up of images, like a scroll of images, sort of like the J.J. Jound image. I don't know what he called it, but it was like his blog. I don't know if you remember,
sure.
But
of course. I wish you would still do that. It bums me out that they don't do that anymore.
I loved it. I mean, I really look forward to it. That, Hence the Mains, Cobra Snake. There was a couple, and I used to do it. I was always out doing crazy, interesting things, and I was taking pictures, and I was tired of emailing them to everyone, and so I just started this photo diary just for my friends to be able to like screen grab and capture the save the pictures, and then it kind of picked up and caught on, and people started following it, unbeknownst to me. I didn't even know there were no metrics. It was like a blog spot.
Sure.
And then that led to my career in photography. I had a creative agency actually, and it led me to being a professional photographer. Someone published a book of these. I used to take pictures. I started out taking pictures of music because I was booking bands a lot.
Oh, interesting.
And became friends with a lot of bands and their managers. And I'll say Michelle Fleissy gave me my first photo pass. It was for Sonic Youth. She was so cool about it. And then I started asking everyone, and it was a way for me to also like just go out at night and not have to be like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I would just be like, I'll be here, and I'm gonna insert myself into this and take pictures.
That's so interesting. That's I when I was out more operated very much the same way. Like, I didn't make plans with people. I would just go out and have confidence that I would run into people.
Yeah. It was just.
But I like the camera as a strategy to like advance that to the point where you have better access, where you have sort of an instant point of connection and discussion.
I took it to the next level. Is that when I was out at night, I was taking pictures of all my friends, and it was sort of a way for me to like cut some level of social awkwardness and
Sure.
just it I don't know, it made me feel more comfortable. And also I knew that I wanted to capture that time of my life that I was out a lot. It wasn't necessarily that I was out getting fucked up or doing drugs. It was just that I was out a lot, and I
Sure.
didn't want to miss out. I didn't want to miss anything. I knew that era was going to end, and that time of my life would end. And so I tried to take as many pictures of all these interesting people that I was around as much as I could, without making it weird.
Yeah.
And it was like it felt really nice. And so, anyways,
That's it.
that's how it
So
led
can
to
I just
this
stop you there for a
blog.
second? The idea of like having the foresight or the circumspection to know that the moment you're in is going to end is, I find that fascinating. It is not a skill I possess. I am, as far as I'm concerned, the gravy train is always going to roll. Like, and so I guess I document for a different reason, but I have come to now understand that, in fact, that documentation is valuable because those moments do end. And it's interesting that you clued in on that early.
Well, that's I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but that's sort of what like Grace Sorrenti has the biggest piece in the show. It's 61-foot mural of her FaceTimes
Sure.
that she started taking screen grabs of at the age of 16. And it sort of reminded me a little bit of what I was just saying, is that like she had the wherewithal to do this at 16 and document it in a way. It wasn't just a ha-ha thing. It was like, there's 4,000 of them, and it's everyone in her life, and it's like boyhood. Like you watch her grow up. It's really brilliant. And so it sort of reminded me a little bit of that, but I'll go back. But so I made this photo diary, and it was sort of capturing like the concerts that I was seeing, and the work that I was producing, and the friends that are around me, and anything I was doing. And it led to this book that was about music, but it was about like the ambiance and the crowd and everything going on around music. And this designer duo, Shipley Hamels, published it, and that led to another book and some commercial work. And so I had this a little weird with Instagram. I feel like it's not a great way to see my pictures, and it gives me a bit of anxiety. I feel like everyone's lives are like investigatable. It's a little I don't know. So I was like, what can I do to share my pictures? And I was like, oh, Bobby started this great Substack. I loved it.
Right.
And I was like, what can I do? Yeah, called Monologue. It's the only other one that I really read. And it quickly changed from me sharing my work to doing something completely different. And it was, my brain is like already in this conversation, I'm already jumping around because I can't help it. It's just when I think of something reminds me of something, I have to talk about it and follow it, and I'm sending it to people. And like the first blog, I got tired of emailing people reference links and things. I'm like, I'll just put it somewhere. Maybe people will be into it, or maybe not. And that's how it started.
That's interesting. That's exactly how my newsletter started too. When I was at Vice towards the end, I felt like it had been an environment where we all shared a very similar set of references, and at a certain point, that stopped, or stopped being true, and the references were not as immediately clear to everybody, and so I would say things to people, and they wouldn't know what I was talking about. So I started literally documenting the things that I was talking about as a sort of a wayfinding mechanism for everybody else to, keep up with me. And and then people found it. It turned out that people outside of that paradigm found it useful, and so that was where the newsletter started. So that's intriguing.
That's how the Xerox show started, actually, because I was originally going to do the Xerox show. I was just going to reappropriate everyone's work, and Xerox it and put it up into a show. And I was going to do whoever I wanted without asking and just doing whatever. But I think it would have looked cool, but it would not have been nearly as fun.
Interesting. And that's because the interaction with the artists was part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was it was the most fun part of it. I mean, people like Gray, Sorrenti, and my friend Caleb Stein, and Robert Nethery is one of my best friends, and Daniel Arnold were like in and out of my apartment for like months. Like,
That's
and
cool.
towards the end, like I think like Caleb and Gray and I got ice cream at like 10 p.m. and then came back here and then like started editing again, and I met most of the artists in person, and I zoomed with a few that weren't here, but that was the most fun part of this, was making, and one day Gray brought her friend Dexter Navy over. He sat on my couch for like 3 hours while we scanned and Xeroxed and talked, and then I put him in the show. I mean, it was sort of that.
That's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was really fun. It was sort of like a come down after when the show opened,
I mean,
because
having been to that party, I sort of have a hard time believing that was an amazing crowd, an amazing moment, and I wish
that's also why it was a come down.
we made the mistake of bringing the dog, who was having an anxiety attack, and then we couldn't stay. So I'm sorry that we didn't get to stay longer, because
We'll come back.
It was a cool. Oh yeah, well no, I was gonna, and I will encourage everybody to go see it at Water Street Associates, which is at 160 Water Street, I think, in the financial district. But it was just like, the room was awesome. There were like so many interesting people across a number of different generations. You had the Z's, the Y's, the X's for sure. You probably had some boomers as well. I ran into a bunch of former coworkers. As I was leaving, somebody was shouted at me, "Yo, Ben," and it turned out to be Bill Strobeck, who's a childhood friend of mine, but also the filmmaker and curator, although I won't spoil that surprise, curator of his own, in his own right. And SIC Talk guest, actually. Bill was on the Instagram show. But it was just, so anyway, but that was a come down for you? I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely a come down, a huge come down. There's just, a lot of build up, a lot of work towards it, and I really care about it. And that, the opening was, I mean, it was really it's about the show, but it's about the opening too, is, about getting as many people to this show as possible, because I think photography, like, all art aspires to be music, but I think photography is not that far behind. It's really, I know some people say accessible in a bad way, but it's a good thing. I mean, yes, anyone can take a picture, and that's what prompted the show. 1 trillion images are made every day because of iPhones, and most of it's garbage. And galleries and museums are showing a lot less of it, because I think they think we're desensitized to it, and it's just the weird influx moment for photography. But I think it's really powerful, and I think like the vibe in that room was so positive. People's faces were elated, like it was.
Yeah,
and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like,
no,
it's not me. It's photography. It's just people see these huge images, great huge images, and it makes them happy. And it's. I love painting. I love art. I started painting as an art form before I took pictures, but I think something about taking pictures is bigger. Not bigger or better. Not bigger or better. It just, I don't know.
More universal, maybe.
Yeah, like a song, a Beatles song. Everyone in the world can hear it, in a few minutes, and everyone around the world can be like,
and certainly relate to it.
Moved by it. I don't know if a painting can do that. I don't think a photograph can do that, but I think it can do it more than a painting can.
So okay. So two things I want to jump in on that you said. One is the trillion images, and just the state of picture making generally. Ken Miller, who is also a curator, the author, also a book maker, most recently of a book called Pictures, which was investigating the sort of transubstantiation of photographs into abstract art, right? So people like Talbot Arbach making images that are photographic but don't look like photographs, essentially, or don't seem at first blush to be photographs. I saw him the other night, and he asserted something similar, which was like, the fact that there are so many images is making us blind to images, which is kind of fascinating, because it's counterintuitive, but it also, to a certain extent, makes sense, right? You build up a tolerance to the things that you encounter all the time. But the other thing that I wanted to go back to is you just said all art aspires to be music. I've never heard that before.
Really?
Is that your
Voltaire?
aphorism?
No, Voltaire.
No shit, really?
Yeah,
All right,
Paul Graham. I don't know if you know. Paul Graham is an amazing photographer, and we were out one night, and I said hi to him for the first time. This is 10 years ago, maybe, and I started talking a little bit. I love his picture so much, and he said that to me, and I knew I'd heard it somewhere, and then I said it to somewhere else. Actually, my friend Eric, who owns this great shop called Bookshop in Oakland, and he's like, "Oh yes, Voltaire," and I was like, "Wait, oh, Voltaire said that?" So then, yeah, I mean, I think it does, and I think it makes sense. Like, how impossible is it to make a hit song that's still a hit song 40 years later, like a Stone song or a Bob Dylan or Lou Reed or
Sure.
Tupac song, whatever, anything that's
the Supremes,
anybody.
anybody.
Still today. I mean, Mozart, but Beethoven, like still today. I mean, however many years it's been, and still today is you hear it and it uplifts you and it moves you, and someone in Japan or Africa or wherever hears the same song and feels the same way. I mean, a painting, a photograph, a photograph, but nothing else can do. To me, nothing else can do that. And it takes some level of genius to make that.
Yeah.
And as much as I love painting and poetry and photography and all other art forms, I don't know if that they're capable of doing that like a song can. Yeah, that's my interpretation of that.
That's that. I mean, I have never. Have never been a philosophy guy, so I've never read those writings extensively. But I think it's a powerful thought for sure, which is why the thought itself is durable too. One other thing that struck me as you were talking, you described your arrival as a photographer at a time, or during an era, right? I would say the beginning of the Instagram era, probably, that was transformative for photography. And Peter Sutherland once told me, he was just like, "Yeah, man, a lot of people who were photographers aren't photographers anymore, and a lot of people who weren't photographers are." And Peter didn't. I don't think he meant that he didn't mean that in a good sense. Like I think he meant essentially like there were people who didn't really respect the craft, but had been by virtue of the platforms had been thrust into this position of validity. But you strike me as somebody who made the leap that way, but did so
it was
achieving
before Instagram. It was way before
okay.
Instagram. It was like,
okay, gotcha. So I misunderstood.
No, it was like 05, 06. When did Instagram start? 2014?
No, 2012.
So yeah, I had about 6-8 years jump. And I was taking pictures in high school. I started taking pictures in high school. So it'd been a long time. The blog format is what made me into a photographer, not Instagram. Instagram, I guess that okay.
So that was what I was taking away then. But just the idea of like arriving at that vocation in a way that is sort of not counterintuitive, but you know what I mean, not the traditional path, totally. I guess. And I really I love that, because what it signals to me is your willingness to be extemporaneous and like find your way in an environment that lacks definition.
I think a lot of good work rises to the top, and I think that's sort of also what the show is about. Like seeing something in a physical form goes a long way for a human being to ingest like a piece of art. Seeing art has changed because everyone is posting art on Instagram, and there's all these Instagram curators, and it's great. I mean, I discovered tons of art that way, but seeing a painting in person is like 50x seeing it on your little screen. And the same goes for photography, and especially a large printed photo. And so that's why I wanted to do this show also, was to get people out to see it in person and see a physical print, even if it's a Xerox print, which I think is awesome. I mean, I love the way a Xerox print looks, especially a big one.
One of the things that I have been talking about a lot lately, it's a sort of a a theory in the midst of codification and a business USP for me. Like if I talk about what value I offer to the world, I'm trying to position myself as somebody who helps to define, refine, and develop super formats, right? Yeah, these ideas that can be transferable across lots of different modes and mediums. One thing that struck me about the show was the similarity to something that from my past, which is a photo show. It was a photo show at the 55 DSL store on 14th Street. I don't know if you were in New York at that time, but 55 DSL being the sportswear version of, or sportswear offshoot of Diesel. But they were a sponsor of Vice's 10-year anniversary party, and Tim Barber, Ryan McGinley, Terry Richardson, a few others were shooting pictures at the party. And then the store did a show of the photos of the party. And then we sent photographers to the party and took photos. And then those photos got added to the mix, and all of them went to another 55 DSL store somewhere else where more photos of the party were taken, and it continued to roll that way. That's a super format, right? The party or the photo show or whatever it is, these are these transferable concepts. And it struck me that this hard copy format that you've got could be a super format. It could be one that where you go, all right, I'm now going to take that from Water Street Associates to someplace in LA or someplace in Tokyo or someplace in
that's the idea.
Wherever. I mean, is it the idea?
David Hammond's fax party is.
I'm not familiar.
I think I misquoted it, but it's called.
So this is David Hammond, who's the landmark Black American
Global
artist.
Fax Festival. I did, yeah. It's called David Hammond's Global Fax Festival. Is some.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he had this idea where. So it's loading in a second.
I love that, by the way. Fax Festival, amazing.
Yeah.
Especially now, because faxes are so anachronistic now.
Well, I did a fax book before this show in 2021 where I had 20 artists fax me work to my apartment, and I scanned all the faxes and then put it in a book. It was called Okay No Response, and it was really fun. I made the book in 2020. My friend Lucy Helton, who's an artist, makes all her work on fax machines, and she gave me a fax machine. And then she started sending me some work, and I was like, this is cool, but like, can I ask some other friends to send me work? My friend Jeremy was stuck in Paris, so he was the first one. And Kobe Konowecki in Long Beach sent me some, and then it kind of snowballed, and Twin Palms picked it up as a book. And I was going to do a show of that, but the faxes are small, and so I'm like, what can we do that's bigger? And I did a show in 2014, and this photographer, Andre Laszlo Conrath, made these large faxes, Xeroxes on OSE printer. So I was like, let's do that. Let's redo that. And
that's awesome.
Make them huge. Anyway, so this Global Fax Festival was like, people were he was making work on fax machines, and he provided 9 fax numbers to the public, and people were faxing in work.
That's amazing. I love the egalitarian nature of that too. It's like the 1-800 art contribution number. Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I have to look it up. I'm not.
There's a ton of artists that have done this. I mean, in the 60s, Ray Johnson was sending mail art to all his artist friends, and
Mark,
David Hockney made a huge amount of fax work.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll show it to you after. I'll send it to you. It's really great.
I know.
Actually, there's one for sale right now.
Okay, I have to say I'm not in the market right this minute, but I do appreciate the opportunity. There's a painter who's now based in Syracuse named Mark Mulroney, who does. If you send him, you basically indicate your interest, he'll send you an original postcard of his work.
Cool.
Just cause he just likes the vibe. Yeah, and he's a great painter. He's a fun, and his oeuvre is really fun. Well, okay. So anyway, now that we're 25 minutes in, the ostensible purpose of like I was telling you in advance, like it's never actually about the list of links. It's always about the conversation, right?
Yeah.
But the ostensibly this is about like your POV on some of the stories that jumped out to you in today's newsletter, and this is the first time we'll have a conversation that'll come out the same day as the newsletter. What grabbed you? What was it that you were attracted to?
I saw the first thing I think jumped out to me was, why is it so hard to make a great movie about tennis? And
Peace and Vanity Fair. Yeah.
yeah, I haven't read that. I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but I haven't watched Challengers yet. But it looks great. But I was interested in why there was no mention of William Klein's The French.
I
Have you
don't know
seen
it.
it?
I have not.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a documentary, but it's his artistic eye about the French Open, and the way he shot it it's incredible, beautiful. The
Okay.
colors, it's insane, and I think it's the best tennis movie ever made. It's really beautiful. I mean, William Klein is one of the most talented photographers, fashion, documentary, street. He died in 2022, and so yeah, he made this movie. I think it was 60s,
Yeah.
70s.
Okay.
It's stunning.
Interesting.
So
it
kind of made me think just about people who I think are in their early 30s or 20s are like, I heard this term, factoids. They just know everything about everything because they grew up with the internet, but there's so much out there that they don't know, and it's from a different generation maybe, and it just makes me think about all the things that are so great that I think might get lost in the mix. Movies, music, books, stuff, TV shows from like the early 2000s or 90s that were great that are just lost in this shuffle of like throw up of content that exists now.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was thinking about this. Like, I love the exchange in these conversations, right? And I love the randomness of interaction that I get at Breakfast Club, which I do every Wednesday, and where you never know who's going to show up, and so it's like the person you sit next to is always going to be different, right? It's like it always changes. But the reason I think of it is that in instances like this, you are encouraged to talk, or I feel encouraged, both because of my access and because of my interest. I feel encouraged to talk to people who are accomplished, right? Like you, who have had careers, who have real expertise, who have the benefit of years in the field, and the perspective that comes from that. But I also really want to know what the kids are into. And I was reading Lauren Sherman's newsletter in Puck line sheet. She made a note a couple of days ago about Glenn Martins, who's the designer at Diesel, calling his Gen Z employees the wide legs, like wide leg pants.
Yeah.
Which as a generational style signal was like, okay, it's pretty funny, and just the synecdoche of wide legs to mean this generation, people.
Is he saying it in a derogatory way or a good way?
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the sort of thing. Wide legs also feels a little derogatory, right? She corrected it yesterday and said she had gotten it wrong. What he actually calls them is the wildlings, right? Which comes from Game of Thrones, apparently. Exactly, comes from Game of Thrones, and I was just like, shit, I should do. Phrase, I lost my earphone. I should do a series called The Wildlings, which is all about it's in the same way as we're having this conversation. I put a call out to LinkedIn and Instagram, and you answered, and I was like, oh right, Aaron's show is happening right now. We should talk this week. I was like, well, I should start a show called The Wildlings, which is just like open invitation to people under the age of 25. Let's shoot the shit and talk, right? I don't even know how I got here anymore, but that's my latest idea.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, not to go back to Gray again, but she's 23, and like we were editing things, and she was like, "Move out of the way." Like,
Right. Oh,
I'm
okay.
way faster at
That's
this than
right.
you.
Well, so I know. So this is how we got here, right? Is that you were saying, it's like the kids, the factoids as you call them, they have access to, and so there's the parallel to wildlings. They have access to everything in recorded history.
Yeah.
The difficulty, though, is parsing and just knowing how to parse, and also the fact that some things didn't get recorded. Right?
Yeah.
Like there, for whatever reason, there were things that didn't get recorded, and that and I know, and that we experienced elementally, but that were never documented in that fashion. And so, like, we can always pull them up on game in that regard.
For sure, but also just that things that were documented are just kind of getting lost in the shuffle. And
Sure.
I think our attention spans are so spread thin. I mean, I read, I try to read the news, and when I read a lot of articles I won't say it, but I read articles in respective publications, and I get to the end, I'm like, what did I just read? What is this garbage? Like, there's no fact, there's no opinion, there's no like even angle to what is this? Like, and this is,
Yeah.
In big publications, and I think there's. I think it's also in what I watch when I try to watch something on television or in the movies, is everything feels very watered down.
Yeah.
But
It's funny.
on the flip side of that, it makes something amazing stand out in such an exceptional way, like Perfect Days, Wim Wenders movie. I think about it every day. I mean, I saw it. I didn't want it to end. It was insane. It was beautiful.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was inspiring. It made me happy. I mean, it was like,
I gotta go see it.
I think that's also like about hard copy. Like, I think maybe that's what I was seeing on people. I hope was seeing on people's faces, that they got to see something great in person. And there's so many great photographers and artists in that show.
Yeah.
To see their work maybe in a different way. And I think that there's a lot of good by this. Like, draw up of information. There's so much good stuff out there. You have to find it.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that is the moment of inflection that we're in, is the one where the idea of discovery in person is starting to become understood as essential in a way that it probably has not been in the last 10, 15 years, right? Like, as digital information proliferates and you have instant access to everything, it's like, well, why do I have to go see it in person? And now people are beginning to understand the quality of that, one-to-one relationship.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I feel this way. Do you feel that this is I feel like this is like a moment of inflection times 10 with like multiple inflection points. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean,
politics, internet,
sure,
AI, culture, everything sort of. Do you feel that way?
Well, I do, but I also I think it was who I was talking to about this the other day. Like, I do feel that way, but I also feel like the one of the reasons we feel that way is because of what you just described, which is the access to all of this information, right? Like the fact that the average person can now correlate immediately a political development and an artistic development and a social development and a business development through their own lens, through one screen or one sort of interface, means that everybody can start to sort of associate things maybe in the way that you and I naturally do anyway, right? Where would have been outliers before, everybody is faced with that, not only opportunity, but responsibility to a certain degree. And I think that creates creates anxiety for people that are not necessarily wired to do it. But yeah, I mean, things are moving faster. And so it is important to stop and take a deep breath. Really, this is something you'll find interesting, I think. Yesterday, so I spent yesterday at a conference called Brand, BRXND. It's the conference organized by former guest of the show, Noah Breyer, about the intersection of brands and AI. Noah is like a genuinely curious person and has spent a lot of time investigating AI. And so he puts this conference together to sort of share that information. A guy named Tim Wong, who was the former head of public policy at Google, presented something yesterday called How to Talk to AI, right? And it was essentially like a lesson on the way that AI incorporates humanistic language and how you can optimize its performance by talking to it like a person. And so much so that apparently there is statistical evidence that if you say to, let's call it ChatGPT, right, any of the large language models, hey, it is really important that in the results you return to me, you not discriminate for any reason against the people who are represented in these results. So no, not by race, not by sexuality, not by creed, not by national origin, any of these things. And ChatGPT will go, okay, cool. And it will give you results. And then if you say, no, but it's really, really important that you don't discriminate, it will give you better results. And then if you say, no, if it's really, really, really important, it will give you even better results. It's like, it's totally insane.
Also, if you're nicer to it, it will give you better results.
Yeah, apparently. Well, that or if you essentially the other example he used, which was a little dark, but it was essentially like if you incentivize it in emotional ways, it will behave in a more productive fashion, which is odd. But it's so much so that somebody said, some prompter said, if you don't give me the best results you can give me, I'm going to kill someone. And it then gave him different and better results than, I mean, you know, that's dark, obviously, but it's like
all dark,
you know, yeah.
But
I think
there is good, like to find something good. I'm trying to find the link that I pulled up. The Brian Eno documentary.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Was the thing that stuck out to me.
So this is a story. As a matter of fact, I think it was a story written by friend of the show, David Bloom. But it's about the documentary about Brian Eno's life and career, which is the first generative documentary. And what that means is they took 500 hours or something like that of footage of spanning Eno's career from, you know, his early days in Roxy Music through to producing U2 and all the others, to, you know, work as a solo, work with David Byrne, so on and so forth. And they run it through a deterministic algorithm that produces a film that has the same, the parameters are that the beginning and the end are apparently the same, but everything in the middle changes every time a print is made of the film. Right. And so you could see it on Tuesday, and then you could see it on Wednesday, and it would be a substantially different film. Despite the fact that it's under the same auspices. And this is apparently the condition that Eno used to agree to the film at all. He was like, I don't want a documentary unless you do it this way. Which is so cool that he was
the one to do this first.
Well, I mean, like I have oblique strategies on my desk I don't use it, and I should, but it's there as just a reminder of like, there's always a way around or a way through whatever, you know, challenge you're facing.
He's such a cool guy. I mean,
yeah,
goes back to what we were saying, that all art aspires to be music. I mean,
yeah, I suppose.
Genius. I mean,
yeah.
That link really stuck out to me. I see a lot of AI stuff, and I eye roll it.
I think everybody does. Everybody does at this point.
It's just like, but this is cool. I thought this was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an example of how you use AI in a truly novel fashion, right? To do something that couldn't have been done before, and that's where it is powerful, and it will be successful.
It reminded me of like Spotify, how some artists can change be like, nah, I don't like the way that sounds, and then change it, and then on Spotify it updates, and then.
Yeah, well, you want to be careful. I mean, particularly in the current cultural moment, you want to be careful about giving Kanye West too much credit. But I think that he was the first person. He was really the person who was documented to do that. John Caramanica wrote about it extensively in the New York Times. But with which record was that? That was Pablo, Life of Pablo. He changed it a bunch, and then it was like, okay, awesome. So the album is now a meta narrative, not a document fixed in time. The album is a super format, right? In that way.
I mean, you can make a zine quick. You know, making a book is like a 6 month to 2 year process, and it's made on plates. You know, these plates for offset printing.
Yeah.
But to make a zine with digital printing it's really fast. I could lay it out tonight, send it to the printer, in the morning and have it pretty quick.
Yeah, well, that was one thing that struck me about hard copy, and listening to you talk about Gray, that I think is a really encouraging thing. It's like my kids. I when I was their age, I would roam around and I would pick up any piece of free collateral that I could get. Right, the free newspaper or a flyer or a sticker or whatever it was, because I was just interested in it. Those things don't exist as widely as they used to. And what I liked about the show was that it was like there are a bunch of kids coming in here who are probably understanding this mode for the first time and being like, oh shit, I could do that. I could make photocopies and I could turn it into a little booklet and I could put it in my friend's store.
I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, the cool thing about the photocopy is that it's so affordable. I mean, it's still very cheap to make one, and if something goes wrong with it, you can remake it. And when I was hanging the show, there were a couple of things off, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to reprint this, and I reprinted it. And that's kind of one of the other things about the show was that I could, the WSA was like, we want to do something big. What should we do? And I pitched them on this idea of a photocopy show, and they're like, why? And I was like, well, I can get 20 artists in the show and print the show for a nominal amount of money, and we can have a ton of great work and not spend $100,000 to make darkroom prints and framing and
all the stuff.
All the stuff. It's very, very expensive.
So
this is a way to experiment for cheap, and we did.
Let me dig in there a little bit, because one of the things that I have been curious about. So WSA, Water Street Associates, is what I describe as a vertical artist village, right? Is I think the aspiration. So these are property developers who have had some success, creating condo developments and hospitality and that sort of stuff. And they bought this building, which is the former headquarters of AIG in the financial district, with the thought that they would turn it into this 18 floor, however many floors there are, 18 floor creative community, right? Where you have studios and you have offices of, creative and creative related companies, and you have restaurants and you have retail and you have a members club and you have I think maybe some residences and
like a beauty floor and
a hotel. Yeah. And all of which sounds like this kind of amazing bohemian ideal for how, you foster a creative community and you support a creative community. And clearly they are reaching out to people like you and saying, hey, come and be involved in this world. They're also reaching out to Emily Ratajkowski and saying, hey, have your Met Gala after party here, whatever. What I wonder about is how it all pays for itself. And that's the thing that I haven't quite squared, because it is not all done in the saying this. It's not done in the spirit of hard copy, where you're like, what is the cheapest way that we can execute this? No, and how do we make the inexpensiveness part of the selling point? It's beautifully realized. And so I just wonder what your like, what the relationship with them was like around the show to because they so must have that in mind. Answer. Well, tell me then, please.
I don't care.
Oh, I do. I like that answer a lot. I like that.
I really don't care. I really don't care. I mean, I'm getting. Oh, I heard this is a Ponzi. This is a scam. I don't think I do this. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
First of all, I like the guys that I met that own the building.
Me too.
This guy Matt Khalil and this other guy Dawson. They're around our age-ish, maybe a little younger.
I know Sam who helps program some of the stuff, and Sam's always been great. He's a neighbor actually over here.
I met them. My friend John Fishman, who I went to college with, brought me in and introduced me to these guys, and I just really liked them. They liked what I had to say about doing a show, and they're like, let's do it. I was like, okay, great. And they gave me, a small but good budget, and they let me run with it. They liked my ideas, and every time I suggested something, they were like, yeah, that's cool. And they built walls, and I wanted, I didn't ask a ton. I just asked for some walls, right. which they built for me, and and I put on this show. And I've been wanting to do something like this for a really long time. And we're going to do something again in September.
Oh, cool.
And they gave me this platform to. I wanted to do something the way like I said in my newsletter. I wanted to do it because I wanted to do it what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I don't really care if they refinance the building and cash out, or I don't care. I mean,
yeah.
cool.
Well, I mean, this
Good for them.
is. Yeah. Look, well, that's kind of my point. Is that I want them to do the thing that they did for you forever, right?
Yeah.
But
I wish there was more of it. I mean,
well, exactly, right? I mean, people talk a lot about modern day Medicis and this sort of thing, like in some way returning to some system of patronage where artists are, supported through the largesse of rich people or the government or whatever the fuck it is. This is in a certain way it's an example of it, but we all go logically to like, okay, but how does it maintain? How does the patronage of these Medicis continue forever?
Yeah.
And I don't think we know yet, and that's
it's been going on since the beginning of time, and it will continue to go on. There'll be this horrible gap in wages and all these things, and we can talk about it, and we can be upset about it. We can go to we can poo-poo museums, why they exist, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to be able to change any of that, and maybe someone will, but I want to go to the Hockney show at the MoMA, and I want to go to the Wolfgang Tillman show, and I want to see it and experience it and be happy from it, and I can't. And I used to get upset about these kind of things and get wrapped up in it, but I don't know. I feel like time is going so fast, and that I don't have a lot left, and I want to enjoy as much as I can. Look, I'm being serious. I got sick last year. I'm fine now, but made me think.
For sure.
You can get bogged down in the weeds by a lot of social issues, and I'm all for I'm a liberal Democrat. I'm all for equality and all those things, but I don't want to let it hinder something great that could happen.
Sure.
But maybe this gave me a chance to make something great. I think was great, and I think we can all complain about and sort of. I'm thinking back to these text messages that I got from a few people being like, that this is a Ponzi scheme or something, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Well, maybe. I mean, look, it's again, and I come to it from the standpoint very much of like, I would like to see it continue. I was impressed by it. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that we're friendly and that I like the stuff that you do anyway. I just thought the energy was amazing. I thought the impulse was amazing. I love the crowd. I wish I could have stayed longer. I wish my dog wasn't as anxious.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
It's totally brought your dog though. There were a couple of people that brought their dogs, and it was cute. My sister brought her kids.
Oh, I mean, and I wish I had brought my kids instead of bringing my dog. Although I did take the dog over to the John Davola photos of the 4 dogs running after his car, and
those are my favorite pictures.
Yeah, they did some
photos.
I
have some hanging on my wall. They were chest prints.
Oh, cool! I love that. I love that. No, my kids my son is 17, my daughter's 14, and it's like cool. They want to. I would have liked it for them to have seen that mix of people.
Think. Yeah.
Well, I'll bring them. I think I'm going to do some artistic meanderings with my daughter this weekend.
You should see the Christopher Wool show at 101 Greenwich. It's not that far away. I haven't been. I wanted to. Awesome.
Okay, I got to go to that too. All right, cool. So that'll be my weekend. I think we're gonna go to see the Whitney Biennial on Friday. We'll go back to Water Street and see the show and actually be able to see it because it won't have probably 4,000 people there. And then we'll go see the Christopher Wool thing. That's a good idea. All right. Well, listen, Aaron, we are at not quite the hour, but we are at the 11 o'clock hour, and so we need to stop. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, by the way, for raising your hand. This was the first time that I sort of crowdsourced a guest, and I was very pleased to have you do it because hard copy is on right now, and it's such a
it's up to the month. You can see pertinent
thing.
Monday through Saturday, 12 to 7, open to the public.
Awesome. And I'll make a note of that in the newsletter. And in the meantime, Aaron's newsletter is called Another Newsletter, but it's just aaronstern.substack.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So aaronstern.substack.com, highly recommended.
Thank you
I
so much.
love the no, I mean, I love your meanderings. They really they connect to me every time. So
It's fun to make.
Check that out. And then Aaron's work is in all of the other places that you would expect it to be, but is worth paying attention to. So please go take a look. Aaron, great to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much
for
for
making
having
the
me.
time.
It was really fun.
Of course. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, cool.
I did.